There are three books in particular that have had a huge impact on my trading journey, as well as the trading journeys of a lot of my clients and friends and students. And what I want to do today is share those top three books that will significantly help you on your journey to becoming a six-figure funded, full-time, profitable trader. Now, none of these three books are Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. However, I do recommend each and every single one of you read that and study that because that is an important book. But what we're going to be talking about today are three books that aren't really trading related, that have more to do with the psychology and philosophy that will directly impact your trading performance and trading results. It also goes to say that these books will help improve your operating system, your psychology. It's very, very important that you have a trading strategy that is profitable and is proven to be profitable, because it doesn't matter how good your psychology is. If you come to the market and you're not trading an edge, you will not have consistent profitability. So start with your trading edge, with your trading strategy, and then put your focus on your trading psychology and your operating system. Okay. Now, the first book I want to recommend today is maybe one you've heard before, and it's something that I've definitely mentioned on this YouTube channel before, and that's The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. And you've heard me say on this YouTube channel and talk a lot about the differences between the lower and the higher mind, the animal mind and the human mind, or the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Now, Professor Steve Peters does a really great job of analogizing this idea and this concept and giving a very simple explanation to the two different parts of your brain, the two more important parts of your brain when we talk about trading psychology. And we all have our amygdala, which is the survival response that reacts to external stimuli to keep you alive in certain situations. And we all have a human prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for helping you thrive as an individual. And it's more internally, instead of reactive, it's more acting based on a higher purpose or a mission or a set of rules or a checklist. And Professor Steve Peters does a really good job of giving the analogy of the difference between a human and a chimp. And he says the chimp is a lot more powerful than the human. The chimp is the amygdala, it's the reactive survival response, and it reacts quicker and it fires quicker. And an individual has to understand this, and they have to have things in place to be able to manage the chimp. Otherwise, it's going to take control and it's going to impact your trading performance. Now, once you have a trading strategy, then the most common things that stop you from sticking to that strategy is fear and greed. When you're fearful in the market, you don't take opportunities that align with your trading plan. When you're greedy, you force ideas onto the market. This book in particular, in understanding the idea of the amygdala versus the prefrontal cortex, will help you understand why you're doing certain things as a trader. And it'll help you get a better... What it is a great mental model to help you understand what's going on in your head and why you're reacting in certain situations. There are also some great exercises and great mental models that Steve Peters suggests in this book that you can implement to actually help with your trading performance. So if you haven't already read The Chimp Paradox, it's definitely something to read and understand. And then, even if you read through this and understand it on a deep level, then if you bring that understanding to my YouTube videos or to my content, you have a better mental model to fit my content into in your mind, and it'll help understand the concepts that I share on this channel to a higher degree. Okay, so that's a great book, and that's one that directly talks about the human psychology, and of course, it's not only applicable to your trading, but it's also applicable to your general life. And it's definitely something I would recommend getting an understanding of and going through and studying. Now, the next book is another psychology book. I don't have the hard copy, but I have it on Audible, and that is The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. And it's not one that I hear many people talking about, nor is it one that I hear a huge amount of people have recommended. But this is definitely a book that has stood out for me throughout my journey. Over the last 8 years, I've read hundreds of books, and I've probably consumed cumulatively thousands of books in the form of summaries and courses and all that type of stuff. So I've gone through a lot of resources, especially when it comes to the human psychology and understanding finance and human behavior. And Rolf Dobelli's stuff, especially in this book, is very, very insightful. What he does is he gives you a good understanding and a great understanding of the cognitive errors and human bias that every single individual experiences. And again, this is something we talk extensively about on this YouTube channel. We talk a lot about confirmation bias. We talk a lot about the contrast effect. We talk a lot about the anchoring effect. And Rolf Dobelli does a great job of going through with researched information, and he goes through each of the cognitive errors and the cognitive biases, and he shares examples of these biases and these errors, and he really helps an individual understand what's going on in their mind on a deep level. So if you want to understand why you're reacting in certain situations and why you're thinking certain things and why you're making these types of decisions, really the work on cognitive errors and confirmation bias in particular that Rolf Dobelli talks about is very insightful and very helpful when it comes to decision making, managing your emotions, thinking clearly, making objective decisions. And by the way, these two books tie very nicely together, the Chimp Paradox and The Art of Thinking Clearly, because when you're down in the amygdala and you're reacting like an animal, a chimp, you tend to have more of those biases. And the reason you're reacting that certain way is because of the biases. So when you understand the bias, you understand the different parts of the brain, and you understand that, awareness and having an awareness in a certain situation and learn to shift your awareness in certain situations is actually, and breaking that bias, running a double blind test in your mind is actually what helps you go from the chimp to the human, the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. Again, this is something that if you've watched some of my YouTube videos, these ideas shouldn't be foreign to you. You have a good understanding. If you've been through the 12-week program, you know the tools I present in there actually help you go through and do that. So that's a great book, a great understanding to have. And really, these two books are books that I tend to reread or at least review and understand the concepts. Now, if you're an individual who knows that will never finish a book cover to cover, you don't need to. There are so many great options. You can read summaries, you can watch YouTube videos, you can do the Audible, and as long as you understand the general gist of the book and the concept of the book and the principles behind the book, that's what's most important. And a lot of the resources that I read over the last 8 years, I don't really read a book cover to cover, but I gained an understanding of the base principles, the foundational principles. And when you have that, and when you understand that, from my perspective, that's enough, because that's what's going to help you ultimately get the results as a trader or whatever you're going off and pursuing. So Chimp Paradox and The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli are two books when we talk about human psychology that have been influential in my journey. And by the way, you go through these books and you read them and you go through the resources, and you'll start to see, if you've watched a lot of my YouTube videos, you'll start to see the influence those books have had on my YouTube videos. Now, the third book is, again, probably one that you've heard of before and may not be all that foreign to you, but that is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And this is more talking about the philosophy behind your thinking as opposed to something that's highly practical. This is more of a philosophical understanding. And the reason why it's so important as a trader to have an understanding of what Marcus Aurelius talks about in Meditations is because trading is difficult and trading can be lonely. So it's very important to have an understanding or a philosophy or a framework that helps you deal with these challenges, that helps you deal with the setbacks. We talk about, the Chimp Paradox is a very practical book to help you understand the two different parts of your mind, why you react emotionally in certain situations, why you make emotional decisions, how to quiet down the chimp, how to put the human in charge so you can stick to your trading plan. The Art of Thinking Clearly talks about the cognitive errors that you're going to be facing as a trader that block your decision making, why you make certain decisions, regret them later, why you're emotional, all those types of things. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is a book that will help you create a framework, a mental model that will allow you to deal with the challenges as a trader, the setbacks as a trader. And what it does is it offers a fresh perspective and it offers an insightful perspective that will help you when you're going through drawdown or when you've lost a funded account or when you have unexpected circumstances, like, for example, a prop firm company going under and you losing $600,000 in funding. It's important to have a philosophical framework, I believe, as a trader. And people think finance is it's all numbers based, and truth behold, the practicalities behind finance are numbers based. But a lot of the best financiers out there, the best traders, they have an underlying philosophy. And you see that with Ray Dalio, you see that with Nassim Taleb, you see that with some guys and girls in the industry that are doing very, very well. A lot of them are philosophical and have philosophical frameworks and understandings that may not be super tangible, but they have an effect on the tangible components of finance and how much money you make. So meditations has been one that has had a huge impact on my life, a huge impact on the way I think and the perspective I hold. And whenever I go through something challenging, I tend to bring it out, tend to read through it. And what it helps me do is it helps me get a fresh perspective on the situation. And really, it helps me feel better about the challenge I'm going through. So those are the top 3 books I would recommend. Two books dedicated to psychology, one to philosophy. Now, there is another one that has had a big, big impact on my life that I'm going to mention. I wasn't going to, but I'll mention it with the philosophical book of meditations, and that's Rolf Waldo Emerson's lectures,
Where Virtue and Self-Respect,
his essays. And there's one particular essay on self-reliance that has had a big impact on, again, my philosophy and my framework and how I think. And Rolf Waldo Emerson's essay on self-reliance, every trader recognizes that trading is more of an unconventional thing to do. And when you go off and pursue trading, you're going to get resistance and you're going to have challenges and you're going to have issues socially. You're going to have issues with your family. You're going to have issues, with people who go through a conventional path. And Self-Reliance by Emerson talks a lot about this, and the individuals, you have to almost have this discontent for authority and for the status quo. And having that framework, having that philosophy, and seeing and having that perspective that Emerson shares in Self-Reliance, again, I believe is very, very important. Many people say that, profitable trading is all technical, it's all strategy, and I couldn't disagree with that more. The technicalities and the strategies are very, very important. You're not going to be profitable without them, but once you have them, there are so many components in your psychology and your mindset and your life that have to be taken care of. If you don't understand your brain, you don't understand the different parts of your brain, you don't understand cognitive errors and human bias, and you don't understand how to manage that, right? And it's a huge part of what my YouTube channel is. It's what I absolutely love speaking about and sharing, is to help each and every single one of you understand your brain and understand human errors, cognitive errors, and decision-making errors. But if you have a trading strategy, you don't have mastery of your psychology, or you're going through life and you're easily peer pressured by everybody else. You don't have your own philosophy, you don't have your own way of thinking, and you're influenced by the herd and by the crowd. There's no chance you're going to be a profitable trader, and you're not going to sustain it. So a huge part of what I love to share, and what I love to share with you guys, is that, trading strategy is very important. You're not going to be profitable without it. But then once you have your trading strategy, you have to master your psychology. You have to understand decision-making and cognitive errors. You have to understand and build your own philosophical framework, your own perspective, and have a unique perspective compared to everybody else. Otherwise, you are going to be influenced by the crowd. Otherwise, you are going to be influenced by other individuals. And when trading gets difficult, you're going to throw in the towel, as opposed to having this resilient mindset and this framework that allows you to keep bouncing back and allows you to continue on with the journey until you're successful. And I believe these 4 books will have a huge influence on that, and will pay dividends just by going through and reading them, or reading summaries and understanding the principles. Okay. Now, it also goes to mention, I've mentioned Trading in the Zone plus these 4 books. You have to understand also that you have to not only intellectualize the principles, but you have to inculcate the principles. You have to embody and action the principles. And it's a big reason why, I especially in the 12-week program, I create as many tools as possible and as many exercises as possible to help my students actually embody the principles and exercises. There's no point saying, I've read a book, I've done that. Now, why am I not getting results? Reading the book's just the first step. Intellectualizing the principles is the first step. You have to inculcate the principles. You have to live the principles. Otherwise, you're not going to see results in your trading. So don't only read these books, but study them and inculcate the principles and make a habit of implementing them into your trading. Just like I encourage all my students to do. And the ones who get the best results are the ones who, they have a good understanding of the theory and the intellectualization of the principles, but they implement them every single day into their trading, and those are the ones who ultimately get the results. Okay? If you found this useful, like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with your trading communities. Thank you for watching to the end, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.